Welcome to the Jaybe show on Revolutionary Blackout Network. So good to see all of you here on this Sunday afternoon. It is June 8th, 2025. I am your host. Good to see all of you here. Welcome. Have a seat. Sit on down. I hope you guys grab yourself a snack. And I hope you guys are ready for a very in-depth show to get into today. Thank you so very much for all of you for joining me today. If you guys have not already, go ahead and give a like to the stream. This helps us out to be able to reach more people. Thank you so very much for that. Also, if you guys have checked on if you're still subscribed, go ahead and check to see if you're still subscribed. If you're not, then go ahead, do the thing, because you know what? You guys are also helping us to grow and reach more people so that we can help activate and encourage and help people to organize and realize their power. So as we grow, you're also assisting in that. So thank you very much for hitting the subscribe button as well and sharing too. So if you guys have not already, you guys can also get put on our email list. This gives you guys email notifications whenever we go live, upload clips as well. So if you guys would like to, you guys can go to revolutionaryblackout.substack.com. If you guys like to get in contact with us, you guys can get in contact with us at our email at revolutionaryblackout@outlook.com. Any encouraging words or news stories that you guys find interesting is deeply encouraged, and thank you very much for that. So while we're at it, we're going to say hello to all the people in the chat, and then we'll get into our stories today. So we're going to be starting off. Make sure to take that poll question if you guys haven't already, but we'll be getting into the story, and then we'll also cover the poll as far as, what you guys think, because I would like to gauge what you guys think as well. But also, here we go. We have Smoke a Guitar says, yo, good to see you, Smoke a Guitar. CBC voter is in here saying happy Sunday at JB. Good to see you, CBC voter. Nice to have you here as always. You're a mainstay, CBC, a mainstay. All right, we have Jay coming in saying peace. Peace to you too, Jay. Terry Connolly coming in saying peace. Greetings, comrades. Good to see you, Terry. Nice to see you. Also, another mainstay. All right. Oh, Smoke a Guitar says Detroit White Panther and love your work. Thank you. Thank you very much. We deeply appreciate it here at RBN. Janice, another mainstay, also a channel member, says happy Sunday all. Good to see you, Janice. I haven't seen you in a little bit, but it's always nice to see your smiling face. Well, not really smiling. You're serving. You're always serving. You know what I mean? Good to see you as well. From the Rumble side, we have Supro Propaganda says, good afternoon, heroes. Oh, thank you so very much. I wouldn't call myself a hero. I just try to, do the best I possibly can. Super Propaganda, the poll is on the YouTube side. I don't think we can do a poll on Rockfin. Let me check to see if we can do a poll on Rockfin. Can we? It doesn't give me the option to do a poll, I don't think. No, I don't see an option to do a poll. What's this? Yeah, it doesn't give me the option to put a poll up. I'm sorry. Yeah, if I could, then I would, but it's not there. But if you would like to just jump on the YouTube side, answer the poll, and then continue to watch from the Rumble side, that's cool too. All right. Thank you very much for that. Let me see. Roger says, spoke to Serge last night. He opened to Bible political episode. Okay. All right. I gotta message him and check on him because he's been going through a lot lately too. But yes, thank you very much. It's always good to hear from Serge. So yes, thank you so very much for that, Roger. Let me see. We have Rootsy Vibe says, much love, JB. We love you. You're doing the Lord's work. Oh, man. Thank you so much. That means a lot. I'm trying to do whatever I can to be as informative as possible. But also, okay, if you'll humor me for a second. This is going to sound kind of corny, but hear me out, okay? I want to be the Mr. Rogers of the independent left media. I want to be that. That's what I want to be. I want to be like, you know, it's a beautiful day in the neighborhood. I want to be that guy, you know. I want to be the one that people feel at home with, you know. I want to be that I want to be that warm, fresh baked oatmeal raisin cookie or chocolate chip cookie, right? I want to be like the comfort food of independent left media, right? That's what I want to be. I want to be that mac and cheese. Let me be the mac and cheese, man. You know, the baked mac and cheese where you lift up the spoon and it's stringing along. That's what I want to be. I want to be the kind that kind of I sit right there and then you just feel like, oh, I can fall asleep. You know, I want to be that relaxing person. You know, not relaxing in where I lull you to sleep in that way. No, no, no. I'm going to be relaxing where you can let your hair down and just be. You know what I'm saying? That's what I want to be. I don't want you to have to feel like you're always on a defensive because that's not good for us as humans to always feel like we're on the defensive. You know what I mean? And so that's what I want to do. That's the kind of person I want to be. So thank you very much. And so while we're at it, let me see. You see, we have a super chat here from Chili Pepper. Thank you very much. It says a Gladio operation called Strategy of Tension created the environment to install martial law, like taking down the twin. I got to be careful what I say here. Like taking down the to implement the Patriot Act, a Soros-paid pre-planned operation. That's interesting. I don't put a lot past the government, to be honest with you, but I don't have that confirmed, so I can't say yes or no. But thank you very much for that. Let me see. We have Loner Weirdo saying, not doom and gloom. I get that. Yeah, I also want to do, I tried to do it a little bit before. I'm going to try to keep it up, but I also want to do like encouraging, like good stories or encouraging stories too, because I don't want you guys to doom scroll all the time. You know what I mean? I want you guys to hope scroll, is if I can coin that term, because I want you guys to also feel hopeful about the future. Because it's kind of hard when you're going through stuff all the time, and then you start to feel like, well, what is it worth? Is all lost? I don't want you guys to feel that. I want you guys to be like, oh man, this is going on. See, I can do this, I can do that, I can do that, and then we can plan this, and then it's happening. It's happening. I want the excitement and the zeal to be there. You know what's something funny? You know what I do? Okay, so here's a little insight to the mind of Jaybe. Don't be afraid. Trust me. Before I came to this part of the left, right? Like socially, I was always pretty left, but I didn't realize the economic part of being left until a few years ago. But one thing I used to always fantasize about was, man, what if I won a lottery and came into like $100 million? I used to fantasize like what I would do for my family and my friends and the people in the area. I used to fantasize about that stuff all the time. Like, what would be the first, second, and third thing I would do if I came into that much money? And you know what's funny about that fantasy? Let's say it was $100 million. By the time I spent about 20 million, I had no idea what else I wanted to do. I would calculate like everything I wanted to spend on. By the time I got to 20 million, I'm sorry, by the time I got to $80 million left, I was like, I don't know what else I would want to do. That's how my brain was. Now that fantasy doesn't occur to me anymore. The fantasy I have now is an egalitarian system where everybody has true liberation, right? And where we mix egalitarian, equal, and equitable systems with advanced technology. And yeah, nobody's perfect, right? They're still going to have tragedies that happen, especially like natural disasters and things like that. Like we're still going to have, nothing's going to be perfect, but it'd be way better than what we have now. And now these are the things I imagine. Like I imagine, like in my city of Orlando, I'm imagining, man, what if we had like a high-speed rail that went through along the I-4 corridor and it went between Tampa and Daytona Beach and went straight through Orlando? Like, what if we had that, like a maglev train, right? I would imagine things like, workers, owning like the businesses around me, the private businesses, they would all be like worker owned, right? There wouldn't be homelessness. Like the streets would be clean because there would be no homelessness. People would actually care about their environment because they don't feel like they are trash being thrown away either. These are the things I used to think about. And so that's some of the things that go through my mind now. And it's like, part of me is like, yo, this could really happen. We just gotta make it happen. It's just like the phrase that goes, the arc of the universe is long, but it bends towards justice. But who does the bending? It's us. So I'm like, nah, let's bend it. Let's bend it towards justice. And that's one of the reasons why I get so excited about being on with you guys, is because, the more we grow, the more we're more inclined to bend it towards justice, because we're the ones that actively do it. But it also takes strength in order to be able to do that. And we have to make ourselves stronger by educating ourselves and learning more about our environment, learning more from each other, engaging more with our communities, things like that. But that's also strengthens that so that we can bend it towards justice. So yeah, that's just something that I just wanted to share that really quick. Roger, you and I are going to have this argument. Look, raisins are good. Look, you, me, and Be Easy, that dude, we're going to have a conversation. Me and Be Easy are going to be on the same side because we can get down on some Raisin Bran. You need to get with the times, brother. Raisin Bran it's that cereal. All right? And it keeps you regular. Roger, are you regular? That's probably why you're so ornery right now. I'm sorry. Jokes, Roger, jokes. I gotta mess with Big Bro. Rootsy Vibe says, great analogy, Jaybe. You are a nurturer. Mother Teresa says we cannot always do great things, but we can do small things with great love. That's a very nice quote. Thank you very much. Jay says, all my people vibe with you and savvy the most out of all the independents. Oh, thank you. That's very sweet of you. Overfiend says, I had to resub. Oh, okay. All right. So yeah. So some of your guys, YouTube may, unsub you because they may think, well, I don't know if these people are, still, sub to the channel or not. So they may try to clean house. So make sure you're subbed. Medizor Ramirez says, hi, Jaybe. I love how you're always happy. It's contagious. Thank you. I try to be. If you're not happy, then yeah, it's kind of hard to deal with life in many ways, And I try to deal with life as much as I possibly can, but I also want to help others to be able to get through. Jen says, that's the kind of person you already are, kind, informative, calming, open, honest, empathetic, and inspiring. You have a huge heart, which is an amazing and rare quality. Thank you very much. You guys are you guys are very compassionate, very kind in here. You see, Alsatalokin says the West is hopeless. I see where you mean. And there are some parts of the left that definitely need work. But it's just like when you go inside of a house that's dilapidated. It's got good bones, though. we can build from there. We just gotta look past, the rotting drywall and the bad electrical sockets. We have to look past it and we got to clean things up and then build from there. You know what I mean? But yeah, let's see. Let me see. Ellen says, I imagine the same things, especially high-speed rail and universal healthcare. Absolutely. That would be great. Sensei is laughing. Good to see you. H. Low Kill says, hello, all. Jay, who is also a channel member, said, bro, just said you full of... No. I wasn't trying to say... Roger, don't listen to Jay. Oh gosh, you guys are gonna get me in trouble with Roger. And Sean says, good morning, JB. Love seeing you and Sabs doing great work. Thank you very much. And that is a cool ass hat. All right, I see you. All right. Now, raisins. Roger, you blowing minds right now because I also dice celery and put it in my tuna salad. You blowing minds right now, bro. What are you doing? You're busting up my rhythm. I do put celery in my tuna. What? You don't? Celery and onions. I dice them up. Yeah. Wait. You don't? Look, I'm going to have a conversation with you about raisins, and I'm going to have a conversation with Sabby about putting sugar in grits. Look, sugar can go in grits, baby. Jesus Christ. What? And then we'll do one more. Radical Education says, good thing you work from home. Not for long, because, in a couple months, I'm going to have to find a job after this transplant. So, Luke Carlos, I put raisins in my tuna. Okay. Not my thing, but yeah. All right. Let's get it on with this damn show. So good to see all of you here today. So we're going to be talking about two different stories today. We're going to be going over. So let's get into it right now. So we're going to be talking about two things. So if you guys can see. So one of the things we're going to be talking about is the breaking story that's been going on over the weekend about ice and hot water in Los Angeles and in New York City, especially in Los Angeles right now. Ice is on fire. This is crazy, man. I'm just telling you right now. There's protests that are ongoing as we speak in Los Angeles, especially. So we're talking about about the protests going on. But first, we're going to be covering about Trump wanting to gut Job Corps. So we're going to be getting into that story and why it's so relevant, especially for those of us who are lower income, especially for us who are Black in this country. We got to talk about it because I don't hear too many people talking about the cutting of Job Corps. And this is a very important story. So let's get into it. So, Job Corps. I remember when I first heard of Job Corps back when, let me see, how old was I? I think I was in my late teens, early 20s when I first heard of Job Corps. And I always thought in my head, well, Job Corps was this institution that, the most troubled youth, especially a lot of boys, they went to, instead of being in regular high school, they went to Job Corps. And because and a lot of times it'd be like parents would say a lot, I don't know what to do with this kid. I'm going to send him off to Job Corps, blah, 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 right? But from an elitist perspective or from an uneducated perspective, it's like, what do we need with that? They just need to pull themselves up by their bootstraps and, just apply themselves. But as I've grown and I put away childish things, I realized that Job Corps is actually a decent resource. It has the potential to be even better than what it is. That is until Trump tried to gut it, essentially. So let's get into this because I want to get into this story. And so let's get into what Job Corps is. So let's go to the actual website. Here's Job Corps. So here's Job Corps. The website is jobcorps.gov. So it is a government institution, a federal institution. So what is Job Corps? Let's go into that. So Job Corps is, for over 60 years, Job Corps has helped young people achieve successful careers in the nation's fastest growing industries. So it talks about residential living and non-residential living, civilian conservation centers. Job Corps has 24 centers that are known as civilian conservation centers. These centers are operated by the U.S. Forest Service and encourage students to learn nature and work to sustain and improve the land they live on. By embracing their natural surroundings, students at these centers can train in additional career fields, including wildland firefighting, urban forestry, and forestry conservation. This is just some of the things that you can do. So the questions for eligibility is you have to be at least 16 years old to 24 years old. You have to come from a low-income household, meet citizenship, residency, DACA, or other approved status requirements, meet background requirements, right? Already motivated to succeed. So basically is for young people to get vocational skills. Right? It says that Job Corps, you focus should be on your studies and training. Let us handle the rest. From housing to meals to training gear, Job Corps has you covered, all for free. This is what some people are mad at. It says free housing, nutritious meals, basic medical care, and a living allowance. So that's what Job Corps essentially is. Now, of course, that's very cursory as far as the explanation. I actually wanted to get a little bit more detail. So, of course, it's not always the best guaranteed place to find information about something, but it can give you some information. Wikipedia. So it talks about Job Corps here. So its founding, it says Job Corps was originally designed by a task force established by the Labor Secretary Willard Wirtz, reporting to Manpower Administration Sam Merrick. In 1962, the youth unemployment rate was twice the non-youth unemployment rate, and the purpose of the initiative was to create a program whereby youth members of the program could spend half their time improving national parks and forests and the other half of their time improving their basic education skills, which were severely limiting their occupational accomplishments. The Job Corps Task Force initially recommended that Job Corps programs be limited to federal national parks, national forests, and other federal lands. By the time of the Kennedy assassination in 1963, the Job Corps operational plans, costs, and budgets have been well developed, including coordination with the U.S. Forest Service and the National Park Service, a memoranda of understanding, executed among the agencies. Initiating legislation and budgetary authorizations were drafted by the Kennedy administration and introduced in both houses of Congress. In 1964, President Johnson, facing military manpower shortages for the Vietnam War, suggested that the Job Corps could be useful in preparing young men to meet the mental and physical requirements for military enlistment. While President Johnson and his planning staff decided on the war on poverty, most of the proposed programs would take more than a year to even start. However, the Job Corps idea was well along in the planning stage and could be deployed rapidly. So the Department of Labor Job Corps Task Force was appointed to task force for the war on poverty. And the Job Corps was slated to be the initial operational program. Job Corps was therefore initiated as the central program for the Johnson administration's war on poverty, part of his domestic agenda, all known as the Great Society. Sergeant Shriver, the first director of the Office of Economic Opportunity. I think Sergeant Shriver is the father of Maria Shriver, and Maria Shriver is the ex-wife of Arnold Schwarzenegger. Modeled the program on the Depression-era Civilian Conservation Corps. Established in the 1930s as an emergency relief program, the Civilian Conservation Corps provided room, board, and employment to thousands of unemployed young people. The CCC was discontinued after World War II. Job Corps built on many of its methods and strategies. The first national director of Job Corps program was S. Stephen Olson, who was appointed by President Lyndon Johnson and reported directly to Sergeant Shriver. The current national director of the Office of Job Corps is Rachel Torres. The Job Corps program is currently authorized under Title I of the Workforce Innovation Opportunity Act. So basically, that's, what is Job Corps. Of course, we went over some of the eligibility. You can't have specific criminal convictions or active probation. It says, is in need of additional technical training, education, or related assistance to complete schoolwork or to find and keep a job. Has signed consent from a parent or guardian if a minor. So if you are under 18, so 16 and 17-year-olds need signed consent from a parent or guardian, does not exhibit behavioral problems that could prevent them or others from experiencing Job Corps' full benefits, and does not use prohibited drugs unless waived due to disability. So they do career preparation, right? Career development, career transition. So they says career technical programs, often vocational programs offered by Job Corps vary by campus location. Example of careers include machinist, auto mechanic, electrician, 911 dispatcher, dental assistant, corrections officer, cook, computer technician, landscaper, and truck driver. And so these are just some of the things where, a lot of people who are in Job Corps, they get training in these things. And so, of course, says notable members, Charles Bradley, George Foreman, Mike Epps, Joseph S. Murphy, Krista Pike. Let me see. And so as far as Job Corps is considered, it is really a vocational training. It's like a vocational school / high school / it's like a boarding school / vocational school, right? But for anybody between the ages of 16 to 24. But it's specifically for low income young people. And so when it comes to that demographic is looked down upon within this country. Because within the capitalist system, the people who are lower income are seen as less than, right? And a lot of times people who are lower income what ends up happening is because of the environment in which we're subject to. Um, it could cause many young people to have, areas where they may not achieve within the present education system, which is deeply flawed in itself. And so, therefore, some of these students may be seen as problematic, but not problematic enough to be put in juvenile detention, not problematic enough to be put in jail or prison, but problematic enough is like, okay, you're not doing good in school. You're never going to get a productive job. You're not going to be a productive member of society. So, therefore, this is kind of like the midpoint where it's like, okay, we don't want to throw you completely away. We're going to put you in this program. And so this is what Job Corps is. Now, because of our system, it's, means tested for those who are lower income. A lot of times when things are means tested, it gets attacked, especially by the right, because it's seen as either a handout or is seen as unnecessary. And so this is what happens, it gets attacked. And they'll be like, well, this money is being used for these unnecessary people. So therefore, let's use it for something necessary, like giving more tax breaks to the billionaires so that they can have another yacht. And make no mistake, it's not just, and when I say the right, I'm not just talking about Republicans, I'm talking about Democrats too. And so there's this class disparity. There's also some racial disparities in it too, where they will look down upon these students who are in Job Corps because they just so happen to be born to parents that live in a particular zip code. So Donald Trump himself is trying, I should say, to basically gut Job Corps. But as of recent, a judge actually blocked it. So let's get into this. So it says, judge blocks Trump administration's effort to eliminate Job Corps. Says a U.S. judge on Wednesday temporarily stopped the Trump administration from moving ahead with an effort to eliminate the Job Corps, the largest U.S. job training program for low-income youth. U.S. District Judge Andrew Carter in Manhattan issued a temporary restraining order in a lawsuit filed by a trade group representing contractors that operate Job Corps centers. Carter ordered the government not to terminate Job Corps contractors or stop work at Job Corps centers until further ruling in the case. And he ordered the Labor Department to appear at a court hearing on June 17th. The lawsuit alleges that the U.S. Department of Labor is violating federal law and its own regulations by abruptly shuttering the program, a plan the agency announced last week. Job Corps was created by Congress in 1964 that allows 16 to 24-year-olds from disadvantaged backgrounds to obtain high school diplomas or an equivalent, vocational certificates and licenses, and on-the-job training. The program currently serves about 25,000 people at 120 Job Corps centers run by contractors. The Labor Department is announcing the end of the program, said it was not cost-effective, had a low graduation rate, was not placing participants in stable jobs. The department also said that there have been thousands of instances of violence, drug use, and security breaches at Job Corps centers. The National Job Corps Association and plaintiffs on Tuesday lawsuit said the Labor Department does not have the power to dismantle the program established and funded by Congress. The shuttering Job Corps is a small piece of the broader effort by Trump, a Republican, and his appointees to drastically shrink the federal bureaucracy, including by getting rid of some offices and agencies altogether. So, as far as we know, it is, the excuse is, well, it's not cost effective. They're not doing that well. But these are the same people that also want to, take away the Department of Education. And my thing is, one of the reasons why the Department of Education is not doing that well is because, I'll be honest with you, it's death by 1,000 cuts. And when you have death by 1,000 cuts, that means that it becomes weaker and less effective. And so because it's becoming weaker and less effective, then that means that it gives people like Donald Trump an excuse to go, well, we just need to get rid of this because it's not working. But really, to be honest with you, it is a self-fulfilling prophecy. And so they're pushing this in order to be able to make an excuse and say, well, this is not working out well, when in reality, Job Corps actually does help a lot of people, especially young Black people. Let's take a look at this.
It's kind of sad they shutting everything down because I ain't got my education. I ain't got my license. I came back here to get my life together, and it's just confusing me how they shut it down.
I needed my high school diploma, all type of stuff. So, but I was working towards that so I can do my CDL because that was my #1 goal.
A lot of people in here don't got nowhere to go. A lot of people in here trying to change their life around, trying to get a house, trying to get a trade, trying to go to the union, trying to build money up so they can have a better life. Because some people come
hurting more than you helping. The money is not the issue right now.
At Genesee Job Corps Center, 147 students were focused on building careers. Now, they're just trying to figure out what's next.
So ultimately, that's who it affects. It is literally affecting primarily low-income students, particularly mostly Black and brown, mostly Black students that are actually trying to develop themselves further. And so I'll be honest with you. This is something that both the Republican and Democratic parties have been working in tandem with. It's not just a war on people of a lower class, it's also a war on Black people. Yeah. Because, see, here's the thing. You also have to keep the races divided. So that means you have to lower one and keep one, barely able to survive, and then one that is suffering. So that the one that's barely surviving can look at the one that's suffering and go, oh, at least we're not them. So this is all part and parcel of the issue, right? Keeping that system going. Let me share this as well. There's an interesting point that was made by this person.
It's crazy how they got rid of Job Corps and then immediately opened up more listings for military recruitment positions.
Mm-hmm.
That's really, really interesting because I'm not going to lie. It sounds like something the government would do. They would take away the funding for, self-sufficiency for young adults, because that's what Job Corps was, basically to teach young adults how to acquire skills, trades, certifications, degrees, diplomas, things of that nature, and force them into a route of either possibly unemployment, likelihood of getting into trouble, crime, or joining the military.
Ooh. Let's talk about it. Because what is really Job Corps? Job Corps is basically the military without actually having to go and fight for basically corporations. Because you get room and board, you get food, right? You get training and skill. And then as soon as you're done and you graduate, then you can get a job out in the industry. But you don't have to put your life on the line to do it. And so who was at a deficit when it comes to the recruitment numbers? The military. Oh, and who might it be that is all up and through Black and brown schools in this country recruiting Black and brown students, especially who are lower income, into the military. You got military recruiters walking down up and down the halls in all these schools, particularly a lot of Black and brown schools. Look, some of these local schools, you got in Orlando, you got Jones High School, you got Evans High School, you got Oak Ridge High School, you got all these different high schools that are mostly just Black and brown in lower income neighborhoods. And guess what? The military is all up and through there. And guess what? Because their numbers are lower, they're like, well, we can't get these kids who are in these high schools. Let's get the ones out of Job Corps. But we can't dangle in front of them. Oh, well, if you go with us, we'll give you free room and board. Right? We'll give you opportunity for a job. They're like, I'm at Job Corps. I already have opportunity to get a job. I'm getting trained right now. So they have to take it away. So then you end up enlisting into a military and fighting for the big corporations and possibly becoming physically or mentally disabled or both in order to serve capital. It's nefarious on his face. It is nasty work. But this is part of what they're doing. And they're going to do it low income, especially Black and brown kids. You don't know why? Because to them, they are expendable. Oh, don't get me wrong. They're doing it to young white kids too. But who makes up a huge chunk of the economically disadvantaged? Black and brown. Disproportionately, yeah. So of course they're going to go to them because there's desperation there. And if you don't sign up for the military, because look, school didn't work out for you, so you don't have Job Corps to go to, guess what? That's when crimes of opportunity and crimes of desperation happen. And guess who picks you up then? The cops, the police, 12. They pick you up and then they take you to jail. And if they can convict you and put you in prison, guess what? They got themselves another chattel slave to work in the prison system. So either way, they're going to get you either through the military or they're going to get you through the carceral system. That's how they work. And anything that deviates from that, especially that gives people a chance without having to go through either one of these systems, is like, no, we can't have that. We actually have to drive them into the direction to serve the corporations even more. They want you in blood. So that's one of the reasons why they're trying to get rid of Job Corps. Let me let her finish.
Yeah, that's not weird at all. Like I said, I just think that's kind of strange how the timing works with that. Job Corps was literally, like I said, something that a lot of people have used to become nurses, CNAs, truck drivers. It's just terrible, But yeah, also, if you don't have a mattress pad, you definitely should invest in one. I've been getting really good sleep with one, and I think you should grab one too because they're awesome. And this one's pretty cheap on the TikTok shop. So yeah.
So ultimately, this is why it's also a war on the people who are poor. This is a war on the poor. This is a war on the people who are impoverished. This is a war on people who are lower income. Let me share you guys something, because if people are like, well, let's look at this. Job Corps breakdown by race. Look, right? Job Corps, the majority of program participants are racial or ethnic minorities, with about 50% identified as Black or African American. Specifically, data from Pathways to Work website shows that 47% of participants are Black or African American, while 27% are white, non-Hispanic. Hispanic or Latino participants, regardless of race, make up another 18%, and Asian participants account for 2%. We're only 13% of the population. Yet, almost 50% of the people in Job Corps are Black. So when people talk about, oh my God, Donald Trump is going to be doing good things for Black folks, blah, 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 blah. Is this your king? Is this your king? Now, don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong at all. Because Joe Biden and, by extension, Kamala Harris, they ain't no better. But I want people, Black people, to stop deluding themselves and thinking that anybody from any one of these parties, the Democrat or Republican parties, are going to do anything good for them at all. Nothing at all for you. They ain't got shit for you. They rather, instead of giving billions to help uplift us, instead of giving Black Americans reparations, they'd rather give that money to Israel. They'd rather give that money to Ukraine. And Ukraine got a Nazi problem. And they want to give money to Ukraine. They want to give military contracts to Mark Zuckerberg, a billionaire, to have Meta develop helmets to help soldiers kill people more efficiently. Yeah, I covered that last week. They want to give billions of dollars to Palantir so they can surveil every single U.S. citizen now. They don't give a shit about you. They don't give a shit about me. They don't care about your kids. They don't care about my nieces and my nephews. They don't care about none of us. And here's the thing, right? Here's the only primary issue I have with Job Corps is that it's not expansive enough. You know what would happen? You know what you call Job Corps if you were to expand it beyond, if you didn't means test it? If you didn't means test Job Corps, you know what that would be called? A federal jobs guarantee. How many people, especially in the 2024 election, who were third party independents that were saying, oh yeah, we need a federal jobs guarantee. What is a federal jobs guarantee? It's basically when the private sector is full, pretty much kind of like what is now full. I put full in air quotes. They're not really full. It's just they're working with skeleton crews now so that they can, have more profit. But when they're not really hiring, then that's when the government goes, okay, we'll hire you. We'll give you a job. We'll give you a living wage. And you work for us. And so then when you're working for us, you'll get that living wage, you'll have that job, and then you can actually have upward mobility. What do you think that was basically during World War II? That was a federal jobs guarantee. Because if you were particularly a male of fighting age, then you were enlisted into the military. And if you weren't a male of fighting age, especially if you were a female, then you were working in the factories during World War II, and you were also making money there, employed by the government. And what happened after World War II? There was an economic boom. What happened? Then guess what? In the 50s and 60s, everybody had their money went longer, right? Now, what I'm saying is Job Corps is basically doing it without having to bomb Black and brown people in other countries. I'm saying that not only should we keep Job Corps, but we should expand it and take the means testing out of the way. So anybody over the age of 16, anybody who doesn't have a job should be able to do Job Corps. That's what I think. And get training. Yeah. Because I mean, why in the world? Why not? Aren't we all saying that we need to have more trade schools and more vocational schools? So that we have people in the trades like plumbers, metal workers, masons, electricians, carpenters. Aren't we all saying that we need more of those? So why aren't we expanding Job Corps so that we can expand it to more people? And don't tell me about no government handout when you literally got people like Peter Thiel, Elon Musk, and Mark Zuckerberg that were literally there at the Trump inauguration, essentially proverbially with their hands out. And they already got money. Like, get out of here. But yeah, this is a war on the poor. This is a class war, but it's also a war against people who are black and brown, particularly a lot of black people. And this is why we talk about doing mutual aid. Mutual aid can also be teaching people trades. If you know how to do something, let's say you're a tradesperson. Could you teach some young people on the side? Teach them on the side, about what you do and how you do it, so that they can learn, so that they can do the same thing. They may not have that official certification, but you can teach them enough so that they can go to a class, they can go to get a test taken. It's like you just teach them, and then it's like, okay, go get the test taken so that you can get the certification. And then boom, next thing you know, you get the certification without having to take the class, without having to pay for the class. And then you can go to any business or start your own business, and there you go. Mutual aid can also be in educating folks. So I'm just saying, this is why I say that we save us. Make our own Job Corps. Help out our young people. And have them do the same thing for others. Pass it, pay it forward. Because as long as that system continues, they're going to keep cutting and cutting and cutting to the point where, in the end, they want us desperate and willing to be exploited for their own benefit. And I'll be damned if I let that happen. I hope you feel the same way as me. Go ahead and give a like to the stream. Thank you so very much. I wonder what you guys think about that. And have any of you actually been through Job Corps? Let me know in the comments too, if you guys have been through Job Corps. Let me go to, I'm going to check the Rumble side first to see if we have any Rumble rants, and then I'll check the Rockfin side. Okay, so we're good on the Rumble side. Let's check for, you see. Okay, we have some comments on Rockfin. All right, let's get into that. All right. Let me share the screen. All right. Thank you for this, Roger. He says, from the macro perspective, Job Corps looks like a good thing. Of it mostly likely started out that way. But from the micro speaking, on the ground, back when I was eligible, someone told me don't mess with it because a lot of problem kids being there, and it's kind of treated like a prison in terms of cats getting robbed and their sneakers taken. It's not this well-defined, well-oiled machine. Anything you want to see done federally, you can get it done statewide, which is something that we've already done in New York State. The county that I live in has the biggest. Look at DM. It works well. Okay. And yeah, that could be one of the issues. Hang on, let me just answer this. All right, let me answer that. All right, so all right, this is from Roger. He said BOCES stands for Board of Cooperative Educational Services. It's a public agency in New York State that provides shared educational programs and services to school districts. BOCES was created to help the school districts save money and resources by offering programs and services that multiple districts can share. They often offer programs areas like special education, adult education, and career and technical education. So special education provides specialized programs for students with disabilities. Of course, adult education, career technical education, which is vocational training, and offering, it was created in 1948 by the New York State Legislature. Interesting. Okay. So they have that in New York. And is this the same? Probably not. Hang on. If I can scroll this. Okay. All right. So the Board of Cooperative Educational Services offer a wide range of career and technical education programs, including those focused on trades like carpentry, electrical work, plumbing, HVAC, welding, auto body repair. According to Capital Region BOCES and Rockland BOCES, they also cover areas like cosmetology. Why? How am I jumping? Like cosmetology, culinary arts, medical assisting, and more. Here's more detail. Okay, so it basically reminds me of like the Florida technical education system, because we had that here, right? See, BOCES program was designed to provide students with practical skills and knowledge that they can apply in the workplace. BOCES work closely with businesses and industry partners to ensure their programs are relevant to current and future employment needs. Programs often lead to industry certifications or licenses, which can enhance employment opportunities. BOCES also offer adult education programs, allowing individuals to pursue career changes and upgrade their skills. Yeah, so essentially, it's very similar to the Florida Technical Education Centers, right? In fact, both of my brothers are actually involved in Florida Technical Education. One of my brothers is going back to school for medical assistant, and he's going to be focused on radiology. And another one of my brothers went back to school in order to focus on becoming a welder. So, but the thing is, like, because they're in their 40s, they would never be able to get into Job Corps because they're too old, right? So that's why I say, like, we need something like that, but to, have it expanded. Now, I do agree. If we could do it by state, that's great. But when it comes to like the room and board and food and stuff like that, I wouldn't be opposed to that. The problem is a lot of times where, the troubled youth that get in there and they do, things like theft, or they do things like, they, have drug use, things like that. A lot of times that's really a result of the crimes of opportunity, crimes of desperation. And then on top of that, the environment in which is degraded because of a capitalist system, which is sad, because then they end up taking that to a place like that because, they may develop different vices as teenagers and they bring that there. But I don't think we should. But and the problem is like some, especially within our government, just want to throw them away, or they want to place them in prison, jail, or prison. When in reality, we should be working to rehabilitate them from the system that actually created the situation. And that's the problem, But yeah, if we can do it on a state level, I think that's great. I do know that we have like technical education here. In fact, I went to basically a magnet high school that they had installed in the technical education system here in Orlando. I went to a high school called Career Academy. They recruited me out of high school in order to go there. And I went there for my final 2 years, for my junior and senior year. I took commercial foods and culinary arts as an elective. And then it was a 2-year program, and I finished in 18 months. Well, a year and a half. So, yeah. So by the time, so it's a 4-semester program. I finished in 3. And so I was able to do that without actually having to pay for a damn thing. I got mine completely free because it was a high school program. So I had to leave my current high school, go there, and then I got my 4 high school equivalent subjects. I got math, English, history, and science, to get certification from the state that, yes, I am educated. But then my electives were in culinary arts. I had friends who were in digital publishing. I had friends that were in paramedic. I had friends that were in plumbing. In fact, one of my friends that went into plumbing, he was able to buy his first home at 20 years old. He bought his first house at 20. Or was he 19? He was either 19 or 20 when he bought his first home. Bought his first home. That's how much money he made after taking school in plumbing. I had friends that were in auto body. I had friends that were in auto tech in that school, right? So there was a bunch of us, but we all had was in that high school. And then you also had tech prep program, which, I had new people who were in tech prep program, who were also in part of graphic arts and graphic design, things like that. So yeah, if you can have that as a statewide, then that's great. So let's go to the rest of the chat. Jacqueline says Job Corps sounds a bit like the Peace Corps. Yeah. Saul Good says it's all connected. Poor means mostly dark skin because of the system. Jay says they cut social welfare funding and jobs programs, and you have a good reason to join the military. Yep. Jay said a wise man once said, "I'll serve crack before I serve this country." Oh, geez. Okay. Let me see. Okay, Koshinto says I got refused from Job Corps when I was 23 because I would be too old when I finish a bricklayer program. Oh no, that sucks. Yeah, H. Lakil said they have to stop aid for starving people. Let me see. Devin Watt says I talked to a Trump supporter 3 years ago about supporting a federal jobs guarantee, and he agreed. Yeah, there's some people who voted for Trump that will actually be like, you know what? That's actually a really good idea. It'll be great, especially for the key people employed. So just because somebody's on the right or voted for Trump doesn't mean that they would be completely against it. Saul Good said mentorship is important in a bunch of areas. I agree. Let me see. Rootsy said, you said it, we need a community job corps, nonprofits, LLCs, etc. We have to divert people away from falling from military recruitment. Our Black and brown children will not fight and die for empire. Absolutely. Shout out to Rosemary Keene for becoming a channel member. Clap it up for Rosemary Keene. Thank you so very much. All right. Let me see. We can nationalize basic commodities and need providers. Jacqueline J. Luke Carlos said that. Yeah. You see. Oh, Tia says, I don't know if it was a job corps per se, but I was a part of a mayor's youth job thing. All that I learned from it was that I should never be a landscaper or groundskeeper. Oh, Tia. I'm sure there's other things that you'd be good at, though. Sean, let's see. Okay, I'm gonna say that for later. That's part of the next part. Stoop Sign says we had college prep and vocational studies at my high school. They had culinary arts, electronic music, and auto shop. Ooh, electronic music. That's something I would take. I also wanted to take photography too. Good to see Kit from Heartlands Media watching. Good to see you, Kit. Nice to have you. Welcome. Let me see. Name my taco. Is that a shot against Trump? I'm just kidding. Let me see. I mean, any oligarch or anybody who is basically within a duopoly, they deserve to be, criticized like that. But yeah. And thank you so very much. I appreciate it. Thank you. All right. So we're going to do a shout out to the patrons on Patreon, and then we're going to move on to the next story here. Let me make sure. Okay. All right. So with that being said, let's give a shout out to the patrons on Patreon. Without you guys, we would not be able to do this work. You guys make RBN possible, because here's the thing. This is a labor of love, and we try to do what we can in order to make sure that people are not just informed, but encouraged to get out there and do more for your community. Why? Because we know who fights for us. We fight for us, not these oligarch lapdogs that we like to call politicians in this country. And so that's what we do. But you also need to be informed about what is going on around the world. And this is why we do what we do, because we want you to be informed, but also, yeah, all the things that are required for us to be knowledgeable and also to fight against the system. That's what we try to do here. And we also not only talk the talk, but we try to walk the walk and doing mutual aid as well. So you guys make that possible. So thank you so very much for that. All right, so let's go into the next. Oh, wait, let me check on the poll. None. I'm sorry. Why am I thinking that poll is for that? So let me do a card really quick, and then I'll be right back, and then we'll get into the next subject. Okay, so let's get into the next subject, shall we? So we're going to be talking about ICE versus citizens. This is going to be one where I think this is an intense one. Oh boy, this is a lot. And there's going to be opinions on both sides. So I just want you guys to know that this is going to be one where it's going to be I'm going to try to be as nuanced as I possibly can in this story. So let's get into this. So there is a ongoing breaking story that's going on right now. and between two cities, particularly in New York and Los Angeles. So it's really the citizens versus Immigration and Customs Enforcement, also known as ICE. There is a story that has been coming out. I want to share my screen really quick, and we're going to get into the story now because it's getting intense out there. So it says protests continue in Los Angeles in response to fascist immigration raids. So here are the top things that are happening. It says the immigration raid at a Home Depot in Paramount leads to multi-hour standoff between working class community and CPB thugs. World Socialist website reporter struck by rubber bullet while covering immigration raid in Paramount, California, in military-style anti-immigrant raids in Los Angeles sparked mass protests and violent repression. The way forward in the struggle against Trump's attacks on immigrants. So let's get into a little bit more detail. It says immigration raid at Home Depot in Paramount leads to multi-hour standoff between working class community and CPB thugs. For the second day in a row, major protests between immigration Gestapo and the wider community are taking place in Southern California in response to ongoing federal raids targeting immigrant workers and their families throughout Los Angeles County. It says, as of the writing, there is an ongoing standoff between Customs and Border Protection agents and protesters in the Alondra Boulevard outside of the Paramount Business Center. Despite repeated claims by Democratic Mayor Karen Bass and Los Angeles Police Department that the local police are not involved in the raids, dozens of LAPD cops have been deployed to shut down the I-710 overpass in an attempt to isolate the ongoing protests. Reporters from the World Socialist website also photographed Los Angeles County Sheriff's deputies on the scene assisting the immigration Gestapo in crowd control. So here is the picture of LA County, LAPD, LA County sheriffs doing this. So it's kind of funny. The LA County sheriffs doing this when in reality, the LA County sheriff himself said that they would not be participating. I find it really hilarious that the fact that he said that he would not be doing this. In fact, let me see. Let me make sure I get this. Let me share this with you guys because it is kind of it's a contradiction here. Let me share this. This is from Sheriff Robert Luna, who is the sheriff of LA County Sheriff's Department. He said, and this is from his own Twitter, says, this afternoon we received several reports of federal immigration enforcement actions across Los Angeles County. The Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department wants to emphasize that we do not participate in any civil immigration enforcement activities or mass deportation sweeps. Immigration enforcement is the responsibility of federal law enforcement agencies, not the Sheriff's Department. The Sheriff's Department does not enforce civil immigration laws, nor do we ask about an individual's immigration status when responding to calls for service. Our focus and priority remain on enforcing state and local laws to ensure the safety and well-being of our diverse communities throughout Los Angeles County. We deeply value diversity, inclusion, and public trust within our communities, and we want our residents to know that when they call for help, the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department will respond, investigate, and protect everyone, regardless of a person's legal status. We recognize that these reports have caused fear, anxiety, and concern within our communities. We urge everyone to remain calm and peaceful as we continue to place your safety and well-being at the forefront of our efforts. That is from Sheriff Luna. And yet, who's on the scene? Who's on the scene? Would that be his deputies? Why are his deputies on the scene if they're not involved? That's peculiar. This basically undercuts his message. Says Los Angeles County Sheriff's deputies arm themselves with less lethal weapons as they assist Customs and Border Protection agents in Paramount, California. It continues, says Los Angeles County is the most populous county in the United States at nearly 10 million people, of whom over 3.4 million were born outside the U.S. Over 220 languages are spoken in the county, which generates roughly 3.5% of all gross domestic product in the U.S., the most of any county. Paramount is a working class city in Los Angeles County, home to over 54,000. It is located southeast of downtown Los Angeles and borders Compton, Linwood, and Bellflower. Federal agents have shot hundreds, if not thousands, of tear gas canisters throughout the neighborhood, blanketing the area in white clouds of stinging smoke that are causing residents to evacuate their homes. Several people have suffered serious injuries due to tear gas and rubber bullets fired by agents. Now, some people are going to ask, well, JB, isn't tear gas, isn't that a war crime by the Geneva Conventions? Yes. However, I wanted to do a little bit of research on this, and here's what I found. The United States had a get around for using gas on its own people by doing this. So let me share this with you. It says the military is banned from using tear gas on the battlefield, but police can use it on crowds at home, and here's why. So says the use of tear gas to disperse crowds have come under criticism again as demonstrators nationwide continue protesting systemic racism and police brutality following the death of George Floyd. So top health experts have warned that using a chemical agent could help the pandemic spread because it irritates the lungs and makes people cough. So this is talking about how it was done during the George Floyd protest. This talks about what tear gas is. Of course, it is, it temporarily makes people temporarily unable to function by irritating the eyes, nose, mouth, lungs, and skin. That's from the CDC. How its use is legal. It says a few years after the end of World War I, world leaders convened in Switzerland and agreed to prohibit the use of war of asphyxiating, poisonous, or other gases, and of all analogous liquids, materials, or devices, as well as the use of bacteriological methods of warfare, so biological warfare. According to the Geneva Protocol of 1925, the agreement banned the use of chemical and biological weapons in warfare, though it did not specify what gases exactly were outlawed. The U.S. didn't ratify the agreement until 1975 under President Gerald Ford. When it did, it reserved the right to use riot control agents to control rioting prisoners of war, among other exceptions. In 1993, the United Nations General Assembly finalized the Chemical Weapons Convention, which banned the development, production, stockpiling, and use of chemical weapons and required countries to destroy the chemical weapons and production facilities it possessed. Included in the agreement was also a ban on riot control agents in warfare. Such agents were identified as any chemical not listed in a schedule, which can be produced rapidly in human sensory irritation or disabling physical effects, which disappear within a short time following termination of exposure. The Chemical Weapons Convention went into effect in 1997, so this is during the Clinton administration. But notably, the agreement included an exception allowing law enforcement to use riot control agents for quote unquote domestic riot control purposes. In recent years, the tear gas has been used to quell civil unrest, not just in U.S. cities, but in Hong Kong, Cairo, and Rio de Janeiro. Portland, Denver, and Seattle are among cities that have suspended the use of tear gas to disperse crowds, at least temporarily. So, that is the go-around for using tear gas on citizens on U.S. soil. There's an exception. See? So while it is a war crime, apparently they were able to slip in an exception. Like, yeah, we could use it on our own people. See? So let's continue here. Says, and so it talks about one of the people who were injured by a rubber bullet. Now, rubber bullets are not harmless. They are very harmful. They can cause things like blindness. They could, fracture bones. They can cause internal bleeding, all these different things. So rubber bullets can be potentially lethal. So when they talk about, this less lethal, it's not really like less lethal. It's like it could kill you if shot in the right spot. You know what I mean? And that's the problem, right? They're using these to disperse the crowds. So this is basically still pictures of what's been going on. And this talks about the problematic use of the quote unquote less than lethal projectiles that are used and what is, done to people. It says military style anti-immigrant raids in Los Angeles sparked mass protests and violent repression. And so it says widespread anti-immigrant raids coordinated by Immigration and Customs Enforcement and Homeland Security investigations and the Federal Bureau of Investigations and the Drug Enforcement Administration were carried out throughout Los Angeles metropolitan area Friday, sparking citywide protests and numerous violent altercations between heavily armed federal agents and unarmed protesters, turning many areas of the city into a war zone. So essentially what has been happening is there was going to be a raid, and the raid happened in a parking lot of a Home Depot where a lot of immigrants, particularly undocumented immigrants, they will meet trying to find work in order to be able to survive. And so what happens is ICE agents were going to be doing a raid on people who were looking for work at the Home Depot, and protesters came and tried to stop them from picking up these workers. And this is how it started. So, and the protests, according to many, have been largely peaceful. But of course, as we know, cops and ICE are also cops. They always tend to escalate things, right? Things usually start off peaceful, but they tend to escalate when cops come around because cops are the ones who usually do the escalating. So let me share some footage. I got to be careful with what I share, right? But I'm going to share some footage. I can't share all because, unfortunately, because of being on the tube, I can't share everything, right? But I'll share what I can. And you guys can also look this up on social media as well yourself. But let's take a look here. Shout out to Status Quo for being on the ground and sharing this. This is Status Quo and showing what's going on in LAPD. This is some of what's happening. So I have to be very careful with, the shots. And so here are the police. They have on the gas masks, as you can see. Of course, They're shooting at people who are walking away. So that's basically what's going on there. Shout out to Status Quo for covering that. And then I think this is a thread of what's going on. Let me go further. So this is also simultaneously going on in New York. So while that's going on in Los Angeles, here's what's going on in New York. So status quo is all over the ground, also in New York. So this is what's going on in New York.
You are unlawfully walking in the roadway. I am ordering you to go back on the sidewalk now. If you do so voluntarily, all charges will be placed against you. If you remain in the roadway and refuse to leave,
Sidewalk, guys! Push back! Sidewalk!
go back on the sidewalk now. If you do so voluntarily,
You're going to hell!
will be placed against you. If you remain in the roadway and refuse to leave, I'm ordering you to go back on the sidewalk now. I am ordering you to go back on the sidewalk now. If you do so, no charges will be placed against you. If you remain in the roadway and refuse to
Yo, yell your name!
You have a home? You're off. You sometimes you have that gun on you, bitch. Somebody's gonna come for you.
you are unlawfully walking in the roadway, I am ordering you to go
You're a waste of space! You should be fucking ashamed of yourself!
So simultaneously, that's going on in New York, as we can see right now, is going on. And those of you who are in New York City, if you guys can let us know a little bit more, especially about what's going on the ground. I know some people who are in New York. I know particularly people like Roger is on the ground in New York City. He probably has some word about what's going on. But of course, I'm gonna have to be a little bit careful about what's going on. But let me see.
Shame! Fucking shame! 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 Back!
Now, I just want to say this because these don't look like police.
Yeah, back up! Back up! Shame! 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 Back up! Yeah, back up! That's right! That's right! Back the fuck up! Back up!
You guys are fucking Nazis! Get the fuck out of here, you fucking Nazis! God damn it!
Fucking cowards! Go! Yeah, get the fuck out! Get the fuck out! Fucking cowards!
Also, my question is, why are they in unmarked vans? Why are you coming in and out of unmarked vans? And then if you're going to arrest somebody, you're just going to put them in a white van? And you got somebody coming in camo, you could be arresting somebody, throwing them inside of a van. We don't know if you're actual federal agents or not. Kind of wild to me.
Cowards! Fucking cowards!
Nazi fucking coward!
So, this is some of what's been happening, especially on the ground. There's more that's been happening. This is when you realize, things were getting real. So a helicopter dropped off supplies for the police. This is happening in LA.
And again, we don't really have a whole lot of context as to what exactly this is. We just know that we've been watching what appear to be law enforcement officials unloading gear from now a second chopper. We've seen now 2 choppers landing. They're taking some sort of gear off of these choppers. And you see there the police, I believe this is Border Patrol police. Looks like the same uniforms that we saw them wearing earlier in the day. Yeah, Customs and Border Protection, it says there on the chopper. So this is a CBP chopper. We're going to work in the realm of speculation here, but more than likely what's happening here is they're dropping off some resources. We don't know what, but it's possible that we're looking at, this has already been, we don't know how many hours this has been at this point.
So it's getting real out there. Fact that they're dropping off supplies, through a chopper. And there is, massive unrest that's going on right now in places like Los Angeles, especially. Los Angeles, especially, is going, it's getting big. Let's take a look here. So, of course, this is at an intersection in Los Angeles. I guess you guys get the context there. Be sure to take that poll, because I'm actually curious as to if you guys think that more protests like this are going to be growing. But there's a lot of this going on. Let me share as well. There's some things that I just can't show, but I would like to, but I can't. Now, here is what Pete Hegseth has said. So let's get into this as well. Pete Hegseth said the violent mob assaults on ICE and federal law enforcement are designed to prevent the removal of illegal aliens from our soil, a dangerous invasion facilitated by criminal cartels, aka foreign terrorist organizations, and a huge national security risk. Under President Trump, violence and destruction against federal agents and federal facilities will not be tolerated. It is common sense. The Department of Defense is mobilizing National Guard immediately to support federal law enforcement in Los Angeles. And here is the troubling part. If violence continues, active duty Marines at Camp Pendleton will also be mobilized. They're on high alert. So now Pete Hegseth is not only Donald Trump and Pete Hegseth are not only mobilizing the National Guard, but also threatening to send in the Marines after civilians and people who are on our soil. This is getting intense. I want you guys to keep your eyes peeled on what's going on, because this may end up turning into another mass protesting moment. Now, Whether it grows or not remains to be seen. Will we have this same amount of protests as what happened with George Floyd? I don't know. But what I can tell you is that there's been a lot of fervor, especially since the beginning of the Trump administration and his, attempt at mass deportations. And I just want to say this really quick. I'm going to try to be as measured as I possibly can. When it comes to how they're being treated, and by them, I'm talking about the undocumented immigrants, it's inhumane ways. And really, this is chickens coming home to roost. Because when you destabilize a country, both economically as well as as regards to public safety, people will flee to the safest place they can. And like someone said, it is safer to be behind the barrel of the gun than to be in front of the barrel of the gun. And so you have a lot of people who are traveling here. And some people will say, well, they're just coming here for economic opportunities and that shouldn't be allowed. I'm like, well, it doesn't fall all on the United States, but a lot of it falls on the United States as far as how they have been destabilizing countries. I mean, the United States has done massive sanctions on a lot of these countries too. And so it makes it worse economically for the people. So then whether it's fleeing violence or fleeing economic destitution, they flee and they come here, right? And so this is the United States foreign policy coming home because you guys have done this in order to, and by you guys, I mean the United States and the corporations, the corporate dictators. They have done this in order to have more resources and use imperialism in order to take control of these countries and have puppet dictators and puppet governments. And so you have, this situation happening. And so people have nowhere else to turn but to come to the place where they feel like they have the best opportunity to survive. And so some will use different means. And here's the thing. Here's one of the biggest issues. It's like, oh, coming here the right way, for some people, it takes decades. And some people are like, we don't have decades. We barely have months to wait. So they're just going to come on their own anyway. And so while you're doing that, you're also looking the other way while these corporations, while these companies, while some of these capitalists will bring the undocumented immigrants in order to exploit them. And then they exploit them by paying them less than a livable wage, or they'll pay them, starvation wages, even less than what they do those of us who are citizens. They will use them as far as, human trafficking is concerned, force them into, doing hard labor without just compensation, or using their bodies. I got to be very careful what I say. And so then that's a way that they can save more money instead of employing those of us who are American citizens. And instead of these corporations and these capitalists getting in trouble for exploiting these people and making conditions worse, instead of them being arrested, they're arresting the people who are coming in out of desperation. And then they're being subject to inhumane conditions by being put in these holding facilities. Now, I will say this. Here's my biggest question. While I know that there's a lot of anger at the Trump administration, and justifiably so, right? Where were all you guys in these streets when Biden was doing the same thing? In fact, Biden did more than Trump did. Where were you guys when Barack Obama was doing this, and he did it more than Trump and Biden? Where were you? I get it. I get it. It's cruel and unusual in what Donald Trump is doing. But Obama and Joe Biden did the same things too. Like, keep that same energy for both parties. Keep that same energy. Because it's not just the deportation, right? That's the issue. It's the foreign policy that they're doing against the countries in which you flee from, or your family members flee from, or your friends flee from, that also is causing this issue. It is the sanctions and the blockades and things like that that are also causing this issue. You got to turn off the faucet. And the thing is like the source of the water isn't at the border. The source of the water is the destabilization of these countries. It's the destabilization of Chile, the destabilization of Guatemala, the destabilization of Nicaragua and Honduras and Venezuela. It's the destabilization from happening in Haiti. It's the destabilization happening in these countries. And yet the United States will continue to keep that faucet running. Because guess what? These corporations and these capitalists are making billions of dollars off the backs of desperate people who are coming across the border. Here's a fact. People do not flee from a place where they have it good. If they had it good, they wouldn't need to flee to come here. So you have two sets of victims. And I've said this before, and I'll say it again. You have two sets of victims. You have the undocumented immigrants that are coming here, and then by the time they get here, they're being subject to inhumane conditions because it creates resentment among those of us who are citizens. And those of us who are citizens, guess what? We're being undercut in our wages. We're being undercut in the benefits that we should be getting as citizens because now they're creating two sets of people. One set is resentment of the other, and then you also have undocumented immigrants who think that those of us who have been here, who are citizens, we somehow have it better than them. We somehow have it good. And then by the time they get here, they get a little bit more crumbs than us. And so then there's anger on both sides. This is why you got some Black Americans going, oh, just sit back. Don't do anything. Let them protest on their own. Because some, I'm not saying all, some exhibit anti-Blackness. And so then the Black Americans are like, no, we ain't helping them. But then guess what? Here's the flow chart, because what's going to happen is that when these cop cities are finished being built, and then we Black Americans start protesting against police brutality, and they start beating our Black asses, guess what? Now the immigrants are going to go, all right, when we were going through what we were going through, you guys didn't help us. So guess what? We're not going to help you. And then it's a vicious cycle. And so next thing you know, we're all fighting these independent little battles, and we're divided. It just sucks. And so there's resentment between the immigrants, including Black immigrants. There's resentment between immigrants and those of us who are native born. And the problem is that the cappies, the capitalists, the oligarchs, the corporate dictators are using this divide to keep us separated. And then they perpetuate the anti-Blackness that is in the immigrant side, and then they perpetuate the xenophobia on the Black American side, and then the white American side. And so guess what? Guess what happens? We're looking on the Black American side, we're looking at them going, oh, well, sucks to be you. And then we look at it as, oh, because you guys didn't help us back then, we're not going to help you now. And that's how some Black Americans feel. And it's hard to swallow, but that's how some feel. So I'm going to say this. Immigrants, y'all got to clear out that anti-Blackness. You have to. That anti-Blackness that you guys have among your communities, you have to clean that out. You have to divorce yourselves from that. But Black Americans, my people, we have to get rid of this xenophobia that we're adopting from the white supremacists that have been hoarding over us. We got work to do too. I'm sorry. Some of y'all gonna disagree with me on this. Some of y'all may even may dislike this stream. It is what it is. But guess what? There's some xenophobia among us too. Let's be real. I'm calling a thing a thing. And a problem is that we're allowing ourselves to be finagled by the ruling class in order to keep ourselves divided. Now, here's the thing. Unfortunately, it's working. It's working. Now, here's my message to my fellow Black Americans. You guys are like, okay, we're just going to stay home. We're not going to do anything. We're not going to help. Okay, all right, fine. But instead of staying home, why don't you start organizing amongst yourselves? Start organizing amongst yourselves because you see what they're doing to them. You see what they're doing to the immigrants, right? You don't think they're not going to come for your Black ass? Come on now. Don't stay home. Organize. All right. You want to organize just among Black Americans? Okay, fine. Go ahead. Do that. But organize. Don't stay home. Don't be sipping on no damn mimosas. What are you doing mutual aid among your people? And just buying black from Black businesses ain't enough, baby. You gotta circumvent this system. Are you guys going to start doing that? Or are you guys just going to be sitting back and watching them get theirs, but then when they come for you, you ain't got nothing set up? You see the fire coming down the street. You're not preparing? You don't think they're not, you know what I'm saying? Also, by the way, my question is, y'all used to say, fuck the police. Isn't ICE the police? Make that make sense. So that's my thing. If you're going to say, all right, we're just going to organize amongst ourselves, okay. But why are you staying home and doing nothing? Or why are you trying to be capitalists and operate like the white supremacists do? Because how is that working out? I think it's important that we realize sometimes we got to look at how other groups are treated and start preparing ourselves. At the same time, other groups, y'all got to see Black Americans are not your enemy. Black Americans have been going through the same stuff in this country longer than y'all have. So I think it's important that we see the humanity within each other. We got to put some of these, these bigoted thoughts away. We got to put that to the side. We got to leave it alone and see our humanity within each other. I know I'm going to get some shit in the comments right now. I'm not even looking at the comments right now, but I know I'm going to get some shit. But the thing is, like, ultimately, if we're going to change the system, we can't do it separately. We have to do it together. But at the same time, you can't do it when there's no solidarity. And there's no solidarity if there's no trust. And the trust has to be there in order for that trust to be there, we have to trust that you won't throw us under the bus. And you have to trust that we won't throw you under the bus. But that's what the corporate dictators are counting on, for us to throw each other under the bus. So this is happening right now. PSL basically says at 2 p.m., which is about an hour ago, mass mobilization, ICE out of LA, National Guard go away. So I guess it's 2 p.m. local time. So that's going to be in a couple of hours. So that's what PSL is doing. And I just really want to see people come together, and I want this to just like, I just want this division to stop, because we're not going to get liberation if we keep ourselves divided. A couple more things. Even some media are being kicked out from the protests. I know Fox News was kicked out because they said we're not rocking with Fox News. But also even News Nation, which is largely, I think, mostly liberal, they were also kicked out. This is from Palestine News Network.
News Nation, can I ask your stance on Palestine? Can I ask your stance on Palestine? News Nation, News Nation, News Nation, News Nation. You're on the air. Now PNN is on there. This is PNN. We're live with PNN, bro. Yo, what, bro? Stop crying, bitch. Stop crying, bitch. What? No more shots for you, bro. No more shots for you, bro. I just said it, bro. That's why. What's up, police again? Stop crying, bitch. What's your stance on Palestine, bro? Yo, bro, what's your stance on Palestine, bro? I didn't touch you, bro. Don't touch me. Touch me again, I'm going to defend myself, bro. I promise you, bro. What? La 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 la.
Here's the funny part about it. Corporate media, including News Nation, they're going to spin a narrative. A lot of times, when they're backed by corporations, they're going to spin a narrative. And so it's kind of funny how independent media is out there to go, nah, you're not going to spin a narrative on this. Like, what are you doing? Right. And so this is why, like, I tell people to support independent media. Like Jordan Sheridan's out there, and Status Quo is out there on the ground actually covering what's going on, which I had to applaud them for doing. And so it's kind of interesting how, like, corporate media out there trying to make a spin, because of course, their job is to protect property, right? And to give kind of a bit of a cover for police, right? For the most part. And police also includes, ICE and DHS and, all these other agencies too. So the fact that independent media is out there kind of interrupting and throwing a monkey wrench in them trying to paint a narrative is kind of funny. I'm not gonna lie, it's pretty hilarious.
La 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 la. What's your stance on Palestine, man? Man, what's your stance on Palestine? Say it. Say it, you fucking jabroni. You slime ball. You disgusting individual. Say it. Why won't you say your stance? Why won't you say it? You're a disgusting individual. These people are ops. Just so you know, these people are ops here to make you look crazy. This is pro-Trump News Nation. They be on that Fox News shit. Man, what's your stance? What's your stance on Palestine, man? News Nation, you're not welcome here. News Nation is the ops. This guy is an op right here. He's an op. This guy is an op. Watch out for this guy. What'd you say? What'd you say, bro? Shut the fuck up, bitch. What'd you say, bitch? Ma'am, you better leave. We're telling you have to leave, okay? You have to leave. You see what it's getting dangerous for you, man. It's your choice. You want to rock the head? Get out. Get out of here. Get out of here. Get out of here now. You're not welcome here. You're putting us at risk. Get out of here. Bro, this is over. Your session is over, bro. It's over. What? Pack your shit up, bitch. Matter of fact, leave that here, bro. Leave that camera here, bro.
So I think you guys got pretty much the picture. That corporate media is also not welcome. I would hate to see what CNN got treated. Yikes. So yeah, that's what's happening on the ground there. I thought that was kind of interesting how even corporate media is being treated like the villains because they of course they are painting a particular narrative. That's what they do. Kind of wish Heartlands was out there. But let me see, because of course they would probably be welcomed with open arms. Let me see. And then I also wanted to share. Oh, and here is also another group that's actually in support of the protesters. This is actually from the Teamsters Union as well. The Teamsters Union is also in support of the protesters, says joint statement from Peter Finn, president of the Teamsters Joint Council 7, and Chris Griswold, president of the Teamsters Joint Council 42, regarding recent ICE raids in Los Angeles. Says coordinated ICE raids across Los Angeles today were violent and intentionally cruel. These were not acts of justice. They were calculated displays of power meant to terrifying working families and rip communities apart. Families who came here to build a better life were targeted and terrorized for simply existing. Among those harmed were our union brother, David Huerta, president of SEIU California, who was injured and arrested while exercising his constitutional right to assemble and speak out. His detention was an attack on every worker who has ever stood up for what is right. ICE agents were not acting to protect the public. They were sent to intimidate, push, and to silence voices calling for dignity. The Teamsters Joint Council 7 and 42 stand with every working family under attack. We fight for justice for all workers, as we know that it is our work that keeps our country moving. The values of our labor movement demand that we speak out in movements like this. The California labor movement will not be intimidated, will not be divided, and will never stop fighting for the right of every worker to live safely with dignity. Again, while I, applaud, standing with their fellow workers, my question is, where were you when Biden was doing these things? Where were you when Obama was doing these things? They were doing these things as well. So the thing is, my thing is, keep the same energy for the Democrats as well, because the problem is like you sound like partisans whenever you go up against Trump and do this, but then you don't do this against people like Biden. And then also here's, this is what concerned them initially. Protesters literally surrounded the teams of ICE agents. So they were surrounding them.
Do you think they're still bringing more people out? Is that what they're setting up for here?
I think they're just trying to get the rest of the agents out. This is mostly FBI at this point that are here, and they were probably collecting additional evidence from inside and just making sure that all their agents were out of the building before they disperse. So we are seeing a couple more agents that are making their way out of the building. As far as people that are being taken into custody, I believe for the most part, the people that they were targeting inside the building have been taken into custody and were taken away in those vans. And now it's just a matter of the remainder of the investigators and agents to leave the location. So, and that's what we're seeing here. They're starting to kind of wrap things up here. So I feel that this is going to basically wrap up here within the next several minutes. And ultimately we'll see the crowd kind of disperse, but it's just a matter of whether they are going to.
Do you think they're still bringing more?
I'm going to tell you right now, here's the narration. In fact, the crowds did not disperse. No, they didn't. And I find it interesting how, Trump is saying that we're going to be going after the, people who are in gangs, people who commit all these crimes, things like that. And, 9 times out of 10, a lot of the people who are being picked up by ICE are just people who are trying to go to work. People who are taking care of their kids. Like most of the people who they're trying to pick up, if you want to count the one thing about coming into this country, illegally, okay, that's one thing. But outside of that, what else are they doing that's illegal? You know what I mean? So it's like, can we be more dignified? Can we treat them with more dignity? You know what I mean? And a lot of times, and you know what gets me is a lot of times people will bring up, oh, well, this undocumented immigrant did this crime and this undocumented this crime. And I'm like, yeah, people do crimes, right? But at the same time, it's like you're focusing all this energy on undocumented immigrants when United States citizens are doing a lot of these same, if not more heinous crimes too. But it's like you're using that as a cudgel to go against undocumented immigrants, but some of our very own citizens are doing a lot of these same crimes too. What are you doing against them? You know what I mean? And it's just using it as an excuse to do these mass deportations when in reality, it's like, okay, well, what are we doing in order to stop the mass immigrations that's coming in? What are we doing to stop it? Right? Are we just closing the border? That hasn't happening. People are still coming across. Number one. Number two, even still, that's not going to stop the crime in this country, because the thing is, like, the crime that's happening is, also happening from United States citizens. And as the rate of poverty grows, because it's growing right now, the more crime that we're going to have. So yeah, it's a hairy situation. Things are going to be developing even further. But yeah, so stay tuned. There's a lot of video that I wanted to show, but I just can't. But it's continuing right now as we speak. So, by the way, Gavin Newsom, who is the governor of California, he perpetuated this issue, and this is partisanship at its finest, I guess you can say. But California Governor Gavin Newsom said the California National Guard wasn't even deployed in Los Angeles yet when this rant was posted. Facts matter. Donald Trump said, great job by the National Guard in Los Angeles. After 2 days of violence, clashes, and unrest, we have an incompetent Governor Newsom and Mayor Bass, who were, as usual, just look at how they handle the fires, and now they're very slow permitting disaster. Federal permitting is complete. unable to handle the task. These radical left protests, by the way, they're not left, they're liberals. Anyway, by instigators and often paid troublemakers will not be tolerated. Also, from now on, masks will not be allowed to be worn at protests. What do these people have to hide and why? I also asked that about the ICE agents, like ICE agents and, these agents that are arresting people, they're wearing masks too. If they can wear a mask, then so can we. But here's the thing. It's hypocrisy on his face. Anyways. It says, why these people have to hide and why. Again, thank you to the National Guard for a job well done. That's what Donald Trump said. Here's the thing. Also, I will say this. If you feel that you need to go to these protests, I'm not going to stop you. But I think the best thing that we can do is to build dual power by doing mutual aid and building our communities up. Because ultimately, they're counting on you being out there. They're counting on you being out there and to tear gas you, maim you, put you in handcuffs, all that. They're counting on that. Plan and organization has to be formulated in order to be able to fight against the system. And the thing is, it's like emotions are high right now, and people are just like, oh, we just got to do something. We just go out there, and the next thing you know, the authorities are already organized. They already know exactly what you're going to do. And the thing is, like, people are going out there without actually having a plan in place in order to really try to change the system. Because this mobilization, like, action without planning is not successful. You need to actually have organization, cohesiveness, and a plan in order to change the system. And the problem is, it's like there's not enough people that want to end the system. They just want to make the system at present a little bit more kinder. And it's just not going to happen. This is why reform doesn't work. If you really want to reform, you need revolution in order to enact reform. But that revolutionary action has to come through organizing and, changing the system. And it's the not so sexy work that has to happen first. And you have to have contingencies in place and planning in place in order to be able to do that. And I think this is why getting with organizations and doing mutual aid and building dual power is the best thing you can do to prep for things like this. But yeah, that's what happened. So let me go to the comments. I'm going to get a tongue lashing for this one, but give me your worst. Go ahead and give a like to the stream. Thank you very much. Let's go into the comments. I'm going to go to the Rockman first. I'm sorry, Rumble first, and then we'll go to the Rockman. All right, so we do have one Rumble rant. Let me share my screen. All right, so thank you to Stoop Sign. He says we need a Rumble only segments for the rest of that video. Yeah, that's the only thing. We should, I'll talk about, see if we could do a Rumble only segment because, unfortunately there's some stuff that we can't show because YouTube will stop us or we'll get in trouble. So we have to be very careful with that. And then you see, so I don't see anything on Rockman right now. Let's go into the regular chat. Let me see. JW, thank you very much for this super chat. Says, sending my love to JB and team. Keep the fight, y'all. Thank you so very much, JW. Appreciate it. Chima Madhu says, there is a disturbing trend with certain influencers telling Black Americans that the events in LA don't affect them and that they should do nothing. Here's the unfortunate part. It will affect them and it will do something. And the problem is that something will be that you're going to have increased police presence. You're going to have increased law enforcement that is going to tamp down on people, no matter who you are, especially if you have a little bit more melanin in your skin. And so this is why cop cities are being built right now. And when we say defund the police, that also includes, ICE and, Border Patrol too, because the problem is like, what are they doing to really protect us? And if you really want to slow the, undocumented immigration at the border, part of it has to do with what you're doing to these people's countries that causes them to flee in the first place. Like everybody wants to talk about, it's just like people don't want to talk about the why. They're like, we just want to close the border. I'm like, but why are people coming to the border? Like, that's like having a flood inside the house and then you just want to fix the drywall without actually going behind the drywall and actually stopping, turning off the valve and fixing the pipe. Like you have to fix the why, right? But people just want to just cover it up, put some sealant around it and just let it stay there. It'll stop it for a while, but then next thing you know, that drywall will start to get soft and spongy from all the water. And then next thing you know, it ends up, causing even worse problems. Next thing you know, you got black mold, right? You got to fix the problem at the source. And the problem is that some people don't want to fix the problem at the source because they feel like, they're not the source of the issue. Right? When in reality, the United States government really is the source of the issue. The corporations are the source of the issue. We got to talk about it. Roger says DM. Okay. So I don't know if I can be able to read all this, Roger, because due to the sake of time, I literally have to be gone in like I don't have time to do videos right now. Let me see. Let me read this really quick because I literally have to go in like 5 minutes. He says, James, I'll give you both sides of the predicament that freedmen are putting at the issue and why there are divides. Check out the first 5 minutes of this video. Now that the video shows that they react towards us and why they don't need us and they think they're good. Now go to Marker and hear Tiffany's story about how they act when they do. Okay. This is what's happening in our community. On one hand, you can't blame those of us who decide that they're just going to step away and tend to what our community needs and put ourselves at the line. Those detention facilities going up against the federal government. However, on the other hand, you can't understand and have empathy for someone reaching out to you for help like Tiffany's experience, always risking the chance that maybe they themselves may not betray that trust and maybe their descendants will do to our descendants. I often hear them say to us, if you don't team up with us, then Kamala will come back and get you. No is returning to you when you did not find solidarity with us when you came here. However, there's a reason why they chose not to. All you got to do is look at what happened to Muhammad Khalil. You come here teaming up with freedmen. That is the treatment that you're going to get. I have been seeing people talk about we need to really vet these people before they come here and protest against America and see how they feel about America. That's why some who come here will stay to their own and wish not to get involved with the local stuff. Okay, I completely understand, but understanding you're here because of us. Others will display microaggressions towards our community, but some outright parrot the white supremacist talking points against us that mirror the stereotypical racist tropes of us, which is what that woman in the first video said that she was going through. That may not be much of an issue, but when they have power in government and companies, they're allowed to discriminate because you don't speak Spanish. That changes the equation altogether. I know I was discriminated against working for a cab company because their customer base spoke mostly Spanish. They served the Spanish community. I didn't really think anything of it. I understood, but it was still discrimination. I've seen Tariq give props to Ibrahim Traore for standing on business and fighting for his country's sovereignty over their resources. Some said his contradiction. I said, no, he's being consistent regardless of what you might think of him. However, he's being against the imperialist West and against Langley going after Burkina Faso. When I say Langley, I mean both the general and the municipality in Virginia where the CIA are located. However, somebody else, part of the FBA movement, are more on Langley's side and actually thinks that doing American imperialism to get their goal is what we're actually going to benefit from. When we say that our community is not a monolith, we mean it. Here's a counter argument as to why they come. Most come for economic reasons, but they don't stay. They send money back home instead. If their country was that bad, then they wouldn't send money back home when they fight to get their family here. Then when they retire, they go back home to live like kings because our currency is worth more than theirs. That goes against the narrative of fleeing due to sanctions and imperialism. Yes, organized and more organized. Let's recruit the Uhuru in Florida with Jen and Pedro and run some CBIs. Only we can fix this government. I spoke with people I connected through Sally's call-in who told me that when migrants abandon construction sites because of fear of being snatched up by immigration, customs enforcement, she said freedmen pick those jobs right up. Same thing when your governor instituted electronic verify. Texas governor, same thing. All construction sites kept getting abandoned and I was snatched up by Black Americans. I remember Marcel said same thing a few years ago with some chicken plant. People say, well, they do the jobs that Americans don't want to do. I think it's when they do jobs that pay nobody else would do. When citizens withhold from applying for those jobs, they're forced to raise benefits and wages. I saw this happening during the lockdowns. All those big companies, it got as high as $45 an hour because nobody wanted to take the chance of going back to work. They get sick from the pandemic when they were getting checks from the government. Most people forget when Dems were the party of workers and unions, their stance on these issues where GOP is now. Even Cesar Chavez said this. Open border was the boss's position. This was the original left position that even Obama and Hillary said in 2008 and the primary, Bernie's original position. Now that the Dems left the workers behind, they've embraced the boss agenda and went so far to embracing this issue, they left Black Americans behind. Okay, thank you very much for that, Roger. Yep, going to be there. Okay, about to end, Zoya. What? Dawood Ali. He said, are you really Black? I bet you $10 your great-grandparents were categorized as colored. You owe my ass $10 in because my great-grandfather was born in 1792 in Essex County, Virginia. Shut the fuck up. Get off my dick right now. Jesus Christ. People are coming in here saying the most stupidest shit I ever heard in my life. Anyway, Marlo says, Black identity is unique in America. I don't think anyone argued, but our relatives from the islands are descendants of slaves too and share very similar struggles. F. Tariq and all divisive grifters. There's a lot of different people in, on either side of this, Also, let me read the poll. I think it's going to be pretty divided. And then we will head on out. Don't you give me something went wrong. Sorry. Here we go. Perfect. All right, so let's get into this. We should this and we'll head on out. Okay. So do you think the protest against ICE will spread nationally? 60% said yes. 19% said no, and 22% said not sure. So I don't know, man. It's going to get intense over here. So let's go. Let's see how it happens. But anyway, guys, thank you so very much for tuning in. I hope you guys enjoy this. I will not be doing the JB show this Tuesday, but I do have a special show this Friday, and so I have a special guest. We will be talking about Black America. So that's going to be a really good discussion on my channel. Of course, stay tuned for the Sabby and JB show this Thursday, and also Nick will be live, of course, this week. So thank you very much. Water your plants, water yourselves, lead the world better than you found it. Do all the things you've got to. Forehead kisses. I see you guys in the next one.